percent. What's that sound like to you?
That we have to go sell something?
Right, right. It also sounds like very tough economic times. Sounds like we're entering into some tough economic times. We're there. We're not just entering into them. We're in the midst of them, right? So I came back from the beach, got hit with a few waves. I think the wave of tough economic times is crashing on us, and who saves us from that? Salespeople, right? Because you can't cut yourself. We always like to tell our clients, you can't cut your way to profitability. You can't cut your way to growth. We need to go sell something. So as salespeople and sales leaders, our time is now. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy though.
Yeah, and I think it starts with mindset. We talk about mindset all the time, and it's coming upon us, and it'd be very easy to say, yeah, but the economy, yeah, but inflation, yeah, but budgets are getting cut by our prospects, or yeah, but wait till financials or the economy kicks back in. So the number one thing is let's watch our mindset.
Yeah, and we talked about that a few weeks ago, even as we were talking about, a few months ago, maybe, as we talked about summer, and think about how we talked about recently the impact of mindset on summer times. Everybody's out. We'll get them in September. What, really? Now a couple summer
Yeah.
with this.
We're double dipping right now,
Yeah,
because it's the
mindset's
end
really
of summer.
important.
It's the
Yeah.
end of summer, and there's also a lot of tough economic times. But we're definitely starting to see it. Not fear mongering by any means, but our clients and the people that we coach perhaps are dealing with it a little bit more. And we talk about what changes. Well, hopefully, not an incredible amount if we're following sales process, because we still need to be digging into not only budget, but just the overall financial impact. So if there's one thing that comes out of this is, we have to be getting ahead of this and attacking this and realizing that, inflation, the economy, asking how it's affecting them. How is
it's
it affecting their
planning.
expectations
Right.
of what's to come? So let's not hope that this doesn't come up and be quiet. We have to be very proactive with this when we're in sales cycles,
Yeah.
and make it front and center, and show that in our experience, this is what people are talking about. In our experience, in conversations like this, here's what's on the top of people's mind. What about you? How's that impacting you?
So let's underscore that. It's not important. Not only is it critically important for us to hope it doesn't come up, it's critically important for us to mine for that conflict.
Correct.
For us to go dig it up, for us to address it, for us to enter into that potential conflict and bring it up. And it's so funny, people ask about how long it takes Matt and I to prepare one of these episodes. And we always joke and say, well, we don't. We just kind of like pass each other in the hall and say, what do you want to talk about today? Well, as evidence of how funny this is, my first two notes are about mindset and that experience. So we're going to go down that
And
path.
I don't have any notes. This is just
It's a prop.
A prop.
Yeah. So, but when we go down that path of, how different it is now, especially coming off the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we see a lot of sales teams that over the past 2 years have been order takers because things have been so good. It's been real easy to sell in the past 2 years, which has made average salespeople have above average results. That's not going to be the case moving forward. So, as we think about what's it take to excel in these new times, these new tough economic times, Matt hit it. The first is mindset. We need to be intentional with what we do. We need to be intentional about the outcomes we want. I think we need to be much more intentional about our activities, right? Intentional about the activities and intentional about the process more than ever. And why is that? It's because we might have less at-bats. And if we're getting less at-bats for whatever reason, less people willing to take meetings, less people actually having cap budget or whatever budget to invest, we need to be very mindful, very intentional of those opportunities. It starts with mindset because our thoughts determine our behaviors, right? Our thoughts ultimately determine our behaviors, which become our habits. So mindset, expertise, Matt talked about experience. What comes from experience? If we do something over and over and over and over for thousands and thousands of hours, we develop what from our experience? Expertise, right? Same root word. So that expertise we have has to be shared in these selling cycles. It has to be shared with those we're in front of. And, when we talk about experience, it's so critical that we use the language of us versus the language of them versus the language of us. Because too often in sales cycles, we find average or below average salespeople using the language of us. What's the language of us? I'd love to. I think you need to, right? That's the language of us. That's the things that are important to us. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to deliver this for you. I'd love to work with you. Wonderful. I'm glad you'd love it. What value does that have for me? Usually very little, right? Versus language that says, we're finding our clients are. We're finding so many of our customers are either doing this, planning for that, whatever it might be. But we're finding our customers, we're finding our clients are doing these things. That demonstrates our experience, demonstrates our expertise. It becomes very comforting to people because it tells them we're out there doing this with other folks versus just giving an opinion.
Wow, a lot there. I could take that on many, many different tangents, but what I want to do is I want to underscore the underscore you already did, because it is so important, again, to just go back to the things, the challenges that we are seeing with others, the challenges that might be in our industry or the economy. Attack it. Attack it. Because we have to, because I'd much rather attack it because they're probably going to think about it. That's why we love one thing questions. What's the one thing that could, perhaps slow this decision down? Now that you have our proposal, what's the one reason why you'd say no to us? So let's ask one thing questions about the economy, about the labor, about inflation. Please, please, please attack it, because we're having conversations, unfortunately, of happy years, people feeling really good, maybe less people in a pipeline, so they're not digging in as much to disqualify somebody or, understand FANT, Financial Impact Authority, need timeline, get clear next steps, all of that. And it's, oh man, it was budget. It was the price. We should be all over that because we know that's going to be really important right now. Maybe trying to do more with less, maybe different hiring decisions, maybe more people are going to be involved in decisions, understanding decision-making process from a budgeting standpoint.
Average people on that, by the way, average salespeople, they don't want to go down that path of understanding who all is going to be involved because it can be scary. It can be more work, right? So if I'm afraid as a salesperson, I have 6 opportunities in my pipeline, and I know 4 of them are like really weak. So I want to massage and nest, kind of nurture and pet these 2 that might be good. I don't want to infuse anything that could set it sideways. I don't want to infuse anything that could prolong it. So I just hope that we're going to get it closed quickly. I hope nothing's going to come up. And we know that hope is not a strategy. We know that that'll never be effective for us. So it's our job to control what we can control, and ask those questions that'll lead to insights. Insights that might be uncomfortable in the moment, but give us an opportunity to do something with long term.
Absolutely. And one other thing it might be applicable to, I noticed for some of our clients, this ideal of just kicking tires, price checking. In many industries, that's used, or that's a stiff arm by a prospect. And I think my advice there is to ask yourself, really? Do people have enough time just to check prices? So what I would do and what we coach is, try to understand why now. Why does it make sense to check prices now, even if they are just checking prices? Because we're seeing, in different industries, maybe incumbents coming back and saying, we got to change up our pricing. We have to have some increases. There's a lot of things happening in the economy. So, not only ask why now, but let's be bold enough to say, so what's the one thing you need to see to make a change?
Great question. Think about asking that question.
Yeah.
How different would your encounters and your sales cycles be if you asked that question? If you're able to follow it up with, oh, okay, why now? Yeah, and by the way, the question's that simple. If you say it with a smile on your face, it makes it even more impactful.
Yep.
Right? You don't want to say it with a furrowed brow and an angry face like I'm prone to do. Like, why now? Okay, that's not going to get you anywhere, but why now? And what's changed? What's going on that makes you want to take a look at this now? What's going on that's made this important now? And that why now question will lead to great dialogue. Following it up with, well, as you go through this process, what's the one thing you need to find to be able to make a change? What's the one thing you're hoping to find that'll allow you to plan better for next year? Whatever those questions are. I like simplicity. I like the way Matt asked that question of what do you need to find to make a change? What's the one thing you need to find to make a change? All very powerful. Matt touched on something else that we need to think about, and that's responsibility. If you hear yourself making excuses in the mirror or in your one-to-ones to your manager, your owner, your leader of, their business is shrinking, or they didn't have the budget, or, they just really like their incumbent and they're going through an organizational change and they don't have time to take this on. Be honest with yourself. You're making excuses. Look in the mirror and own it, right? Have ownership. Have responsibility for the outcomes. If we're losing and we can't say, I failed to do everything I could, we're making excuses. If you say, I worked the process, I set clear next steps, I asked one thing questions, I did everything I could, I owned the process, I lived in the process, I executed against the process, and you still lost, it's going to happen. That's fine. But if not, be honest with yourself. And what are you going to do different next time? And if you did do all those things and you lost, could you have been more efficient, more effective, more proficient in the way you work through the process? What will you do differently next time? How do you learn from that? So that's, again, we need to be getting better in these times. We can't just be, haphazard, flippant, Pollyanna, whatever. How do we make sure we're learning from every encounter? That's, I think, from a salesperson perspective, something to think about. As a sales leader, critically important for you right now. As a sales leader, you're going to be more impactful in these times than in good times. Good times, it's easy. All right, we're taking orders, things are cruising, things are humming. But as a sales leader, a couple things to think about. What do I need to do now? Well, what you need to do as a sales leader, we believe, is number one, keep people engaged. Right? Everything we do as a leader is about engagement or accountability. So as a sales leader, how am I going to keep people engaged right now when they might be scared, when they might be worried about the future, when they might be marred in what's happening, when they can go easily down the path of bad economic news, when they can go easily down the path of all the things they can't control. They can get worried about those. So as a sales leader, mindset's critical. You determine the mindset for your team, keep them focused on the things they can control, not on the things they can't control. Fair?
Makes sense to me.
All right. Number two, hold them accountable. This is the time more than ever we need to be rigorous about our one-to-ones, not just holding them, but the method in which we're holding them, the process we're implementing and executing in those one-to-ones. We're big fans of simple one-to-ones, weekly one-to-ones for a sales leader to have with their salespeople. The structure of those, by way of reminder, is how'd we do? So we're looking at activity. What did I do over the past week from an activity perspective of being in front of people? Because, for the most part, this is still a belly-to-belly sport. So if that in front of people is Zoom calls or Teams calls, great. How many did you have? If it's phone calls, great. How are we doing there and what were the results? If it's meetings, making sure we're hitting those meeting numbers. But that's critical, right? That accountability you bring to them in that one-to-one of how do we do, finding that rhythm, finding that cadence that they know they need to hit to be successful. We have to be there. So what do? We engage them by helping their mindset be clear. We hold them accountable to what did they do. We ask them what they learned. And we ask them what they hope to achieve in the next week. And then ultimately, what do you need from me? So how'd we do? What did we learn? What do you need from me? Right? And we build those goals moving forward. And the other thing I think it's uncomfortable to talk about, but sales leaders need to be mindful of right now, because we don't know how long we're going to be going through this period. I'm guessing it's not going to turn around in Q3 because it rarely does, right? I mean, rarely can we go from bad stuff to really good stuff quickly. So we're looking at a period of critical sales importance. We're looking at a period of time where our sales team is going to drive the success of the organization based on our intentionality. So it's important to make sure we have the right team. And that's uncomfortable now to think about a lot of times because we draw close to the people. We become emotionally engaged. We look at what they did, last year and all that. But we have to be honest about the people we have and making sure we're putting them in positions to be successful. Because it's not just about those individuals, it's about the company. Our responsibility is to the organization. So making sure that we're putting people in positions for success so that all the families that this organization supports, all the families that trust this organization to do things well, have a future, right? And we can't just become mired in what'll turn around. No, we need to be honest. So, and I think the most loving thing we can do for our salespeople is
Position them for success.
yeah. So it's not about being liked. The most loving thing we do for our salespeople.
Position them for success.
There you go. So, what do you think?
Oh, I was able to check my fantasy football lineup during
good.
that.
See Matt's intentionality. That's awesome. So Matt's all set for the Hall of Fame game, I guess, next week. Part of this is we're talking about this intentionality, and I think one of Matt's favorite quotes he's learned over the years about sales came from my father-in-law, who I mentioned earlier, who passed a couple weeks back, and he had a profound impact on me. His name was Steve Donafee. He had a profound impact on me in my life, also my profession as a salesperson, because he was a salesperson till the very end, right? He
The
was
closer.
he was an insurance man. He was still selling policies up until a few months back, and he had a phrase that you loved.
Yep, absolutely. He said, plan the work and work the plan.
Yeah, very timely right now. So what's the plan of our work? Are we planning our week? Are we planning our day? Are we planning our meetings? To what level of granularity are we willing to plan? And then how committed are we to that plan that we're able to go work it, trust it, and execute against the process? So hope you guys are able to have a great week. Go plan your work and work your plan. And make sure you're minding your mindset, right? That these tough times are here. They're not going to last forever. And most of the things that we can read about in the paper, we can't control. But what we can control is our commitment to today, how we go out and now win the morning, get yourself a little bit of nourishment, have a lunch, maybe grab coffee, do whatever it is you do, and then go win the afternoon. And we're going to get good rest. And tomorrow we're going to wake up, win the morning, win the afternoon. We're going to win the day. We do that enough days in a row, we end up winning the week. Then we get to win the month, and then we get to go win the quarter. And everything we read about in the news can be just that, stuff we read about in the news. As salespeople, as sales leaders, we make the news. We don't report it. So let's go win the morning and win the day. And hopefully you guys win the week. We look forward to being back with you next week. Thank you for your time today. Take care and God bless.